General Flynn's been prosecuted for lying to the FBI. You lied to the FBI and you aren't being prosecuted. Don't you think that sends the wrong message to the American people? You weren't fired for parking in the handicapped parking spot at the FBI, were you? You were fired for lying, were you not?
I was fired as the result of a deeply unfair and flawed IG investigation, and I am challenging that termination in federal court.
Okay. Last question.
Today, we're diving into a fiery Senate exchange that has everyone talking. Senator John Kennedy is known for his sharp wit, but this time, he took it to a whole new level, grilling former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe like never before. From questions about the Steele dossier to allegations of FBI misconduct, this showdown is a must-watch. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Let's break it all down. It all started when Senator Kennedy asked McCabe a straightforward yet damning question. Who's responsible for the misconduct outlined by Inspector General Horowitz? McCabe's response? A masterclass in deflection. He admitted to command failures but quickly shifted the blame to others. Let's take a look.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McCabe, who is responsible for the misbehavior outlined by Inspector General Horowitz in his report about misfire hurricane?
Well, it depends on what you're referring to, Senator. If you're referring to the intentional misconduct committed by Mr. Kleinsmith, quite obviously Mr. Kleinsmith's responsible for that. I think from a command perspective, Director Comey and myself and our subordinate leaders are all responsible for the failures in that package that were allowed to go forward. But if you're asking me who is responsible for intentional misconduct beyond Mr. Kleinsmith's activity, I'm not aware that there's been a finding that others were engaged in intentional misconduct.
While you were either director or acting director of the FBI decided to investigate two presidential campaigns. One, Secretary Clinton, the other one, then candidate Trump and later President Trump. I want to put aside Secretary Clinton for a second. When the FBI decided to investigate candidate Donald Trump, what questions did you ask? I mean, at some point, somebody came to you and said, "Hey, Mr. Deputy Director, we're going to, just so you'll know, we're going to investigate the Republican nominee for President of the United States." You remember when you were told that?
So if you're referring to our initiation of the Crossfire investigation, so the investigation of the Trump campaign, I do remember conversations at the end of July 2016.
Okay, I'm not interested in the date. Excuse me for interrupting. I apologize. Would it be fair to say that the Christopher Steele dossier was the keystone of the investigation?
No, sir, that's not accurate.
Oh, well, how important was it? What word would you use?
It had no importance. We were not in possession of that information when we initiated the case.
Okay, so you're telling me when you initiated the case, Christopher Steele's dossier had nothing to do with your decision to go forward?
That's correct.
That's your testimony today, under oath?
It is.
Okay. At some point, the Christopher Steele dossier became important, did it not?
The Christopher Steele reporting came to us in the middle of September, and it became important to us at that time.
Okay. Now, when you heard about the Christopher Steele dossier, did you ask to interview Mr. Steele? I mean, you're only investigating a candidate for President of the United States. After you've already investigated one, now you're on the second one. Did you say, "Hey, I'm the deputy director here. I'm responsible. I want to talk to Christopher Steele"? Did you do that?
I did not personally speak to Mr. Steele, but our investigative team
But
traveled
why not?
overseas.
Why not? You're the deputy. This is what I don't understand about this whole thing, Mr. McCabe. You're the deputy director of the FBI. And your people have decided to investigate the Republican nominee for President of the United States after already investigating the Democratic nominee. And at least in part, at some point, it was based on the Chris Steele dossier. Now, you can run from that one, but you can't hide from it. Did you ever call your guys in or gals and say, hey, just a thought, I think I'd like to talk to Chris Steele to see how credible this guy is? Because you say you've never known him. Did you do that?
Senator, in my entire experience of 21 years as an FBI agent, I am not aware of a single instance of the deputy director of the FBI interviewing a source. And
well, how many nominees for President of the United States have you investigated?
I can't comment on that, sir.
Now, but you're telling me at no point you ever sat down and said, wait a minute, guys, this is now all based or substantially based on Chris Steele. I want to talk to this cowboy. You never did that.
That is not an accurate characterization of our investigation.
That's what you just said. You said you never talked to him. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
No, sir, I'm just trying to clarify that the Steele information didn't come to us until 2.5 months after we'd opened the case.
Well, when it came to you, did you say, wait a minute, guys, this is my reputation on the line. I want to talk to Christopher Steele.
No, Senator, I sent my investigators to conduct the investigation.
Okay. Do you know who? Do you know who Igor Danchenko is?
I do not.
You have no idea who that is, even today.
I am not going to speculate as to who he is.
Well, he was the subsource that the Steele dossier was based on. So Senator, you're telling me, I want to be sure I understand. You're the assistant director of the FBI. You've decided to investigate the Trump campaign. You get this dossier, which, whether you admit it or not, was the basis for all the FISA warrants. You never sat down and said, I want to talk to Chris Steele. If you had talked to Chris Steele, you would have found out that his subsource was Igor Danchenko. That was his primary subsource. Danchenko was not, he wasn't from Russia. He was some guy in Washington, D.C. working for Brookings. He went to the University of Louisville. He went to Georgetown. He was buddies with Dr. Fiona Hill. He was relying on his drinking buddies. Why didn't all of you folks who are running this show say, wait a minute, this is all centered around Chris Steele. We better talk to Chris Steele, and we better talk to this guy Danchenko.
Finally, Kennedy brought up Michael Flynn, comparing his prosecution for lying to the FBI with McCabe's own alleged dishonesty. McCabe insisted the situations were completely different, but Kennedy didn't let him off the hook. You weren't fired for parking in the wrong spot, Kennedy quipped. You were fired for lying. This exchange highlighted what many see as a troubling double standard in how justice is applied. So what do we make of this exchange? Senator Kennedy didn't just grill McCabe, he roasted him. From unanswered questions about the Steele dossier to the lasting damage to the FBI's reputation, Kennedy left no stone unturned. What do you think? Was McCabe's defense convincing, or did Kennedy expose major flaws in the FBI's handling of these investigations? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.